is Anselm Adodo. I live in a monastic community, a Benedictine monastery in Edo State, in Midwest Nigeria. I have been living in the monastery for the past 35 years as a monk. When I first came to the monastery, I was impressed by the environment, the calm, peaceful environment, palm trees, giant trees, flowers, and I said, yes, this looks like home. I would like to come back here and stay. And so I did, and have been here since then. It has been a wonderful journey. And my journey over these many years has been a journey to within and without, a journey into myself. So when I newly came to the monastery, I was so preoccupied with going into myself, thinking that God is there, and I wanted a quiet place. Until I discovered that I can't find that thing here within me only. So I need to go within and go out again and find that God out there with people, in nature, in people. And it has been a wonderful experience. And that is what I've been teaching over the past 20 years. So for me, education is about this, about going within and coming out. And so I've been teaching the transformation topic for some years now. And transformation is just about going in and coming out again, transformed. So I will see that as my understanding of the crisis of the world of today, that the world probably we have been going too much in one direction. We have always think it's all about going one way, development, profit, acquire what you want, get as much as possible, without having plan B or C, and then suddenly when there's a crisis, nowhere to go because we didn't plan for that. But for me, the crisis of the world today is a crisis of going back home, and I see the idea of the home for humanity as telling the world to come back home, to come back to the soil, to the ground which we are. In my language, in the Yoruba language, the word for the ground, for the soil is ile. Ile means home, and it is spelled in the same way as the ground, the earth. So ile is house, is home. Ile is the ground where we are. And for me, that is powerful. So my home is the earth, is the ground. And I must always be grounded in order to be at home. And I think today we have uprooted ourselves from home, from the earth, from the ground, and we need to come down to the earth. For me, that's my message for the world of today, because we forgot that whatever we put up there into the air comes back down to the earth, to the ground. So if I prepare the ground very well, the home well, yeah, I can always come back there with joy and peace. If I don't, then I will come back there, deceived and not satisfied. So that is my journey, and that's my understanding of being on integral journey. And I am happy to journey with other people who share this same passion. And interestingly, the Latin word for being human is humus. That in Latin, humus means humility. So even the word humility is still about coming home, the ground, coming home to the ground. Pride is the inability to recognize that we came from the ground, because when we're on the ground, we are all the same, we are all equal. And the issue of the current pandemic that is ravaging the world reminds us that we're all the same anyway, irrespective of our color, height, doesn't matter. The virus doesn't care who you are or where you come from. So it goes across all races and cultures. So I think we are learning that from the current challenge of the pandemic, that we are all the same. We are all human. So that is what it means for me. And I've been to Geneva, to Tunis, to the Home for Humanity, and my experience there is once again the fact that what brings us together as humans is much more than what separates us. So I like the idea of bringing people together from different parts of the world, east, north, and west, south. Then when we come together, we realize that we have much more in common as human beings than what separates us. And for me, it's always powerful when we come together. So I would think the world needs to do more of this. If we don't come together, we may have a stereotyped image of other people. And when we come together, suddenly you find that, yes, we're all the same. We cry, we laugh, we smile, we read, we dance, we play, and we are the same. All the basic human attributes are all the same. So that has been my experience. And also, finally, I think the leaders of the world of today, we need to find a way of bringing them into our circle. I've been working with quite a lot of political leaders in Africa, in Nigeria in particular, and we criticize them a lot. We have more than enough reason to be angry with them, but I also discovered that the leaders, they are very lonely. They are crying for help, and they will need our help. We need to bring them into our circle and say, come back home and come and be with us. So I will see that as a challenge for the Home for Humanity. Can we bring the leaders, those who take decisions that affect us, to come back into our circle? And if they come, they will always want to come back. For me, that is a more positive and creative way of transforming the world. We don't need guns or bombs to transform the world. We just need charity, love, companionship to transform the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your words. And you were also perfectly on time. I think you have a lot of experience in this realm of bringing people home and using the knowledge that the community also brings. And on that last part that you mentioned, I wanted to ask you something. You said that we have the challenge to bring the leaders back home and connect them to the earth and also to the community again. How did you do that with the leaders that you met? And do you have any tips on how to best connect the leaders with the community?
Yeah, sure. Yes. To share my own experience, one of the things that we did here in our center, where we manufacture natural supplements, for example, which is part of the beauty of coming back home. We live in a rural community where we have good ecosystem, grasses, flowers, and we say we admire them, but we could also convert this into life-giving medicines for the local people. And so we created the home and reached out to the political leader. I would simply say, come, no conditions, just come. So the first thing is, let's demonstrate what you have, that build a home, a good one, and it will speak for itself. Then you go a step further to bring other people. they will get the message. So what we did is we set up a proper place where we have all the elements of innovation, creativity, community, and then having done that, we reach out to the political leader and say, come, no conditions, just come. And when they came, they say, yes, this is home. And when people come to your home and they feel at home, they will listen to you because they are not threatened. And then they are ready to share with you, open up to their pains. That was what made me to discover that as we need help, the leaders, they need help also. And then they will open up and then they could listen to your advice. So they know you are speaking to them out of care and concern. So I believe, yes, when you connect, then you can break down the barriers.
Thank you very much. I'm just now thinking about how we young transformers could implement this advice and maybe in future projects that might be a part of it, because it sounds really interesting. And one of the things that I personally think a lot about is how to not only think about what needs to change and talk with like-minded people about yes, this should change, and all these ideas how it should be in a perfect world, but also how to actually manifest change and learn from people who have other opinions and who might not agree with you at all times. So I think that's very valuable advice. Thank you.
Yes, yes, thank you.
Also, a more northern question maybe. How do you personally, but also with Pax Herbals, engage the community to learn together and be creative together, and minimize conventions or traditions to stop you from evolving?
Thank you. Talking about community, behind me here is my own concept of community. There's a painting behind me done by a young man who is an artist, and he imagined a world of peace and harmony where there's music, there's a good ecosystem, and that is the human community, the ideal human community. So in Pax Herbals, when we started to work with plants, the plants, they grow in the community. In the first place, for us, the plants and the animals, they are part of our ecosystem. We always tend to forget that. Remember, before we came, the plants, they were here before us. The animals, they were here before us. And in terms of survival, they are wiser than we are. They actually know how to survive and adapt more easily than we are. And when we forget that, then we get into trouble because we can't just come and take over from those guys who came before us. So it's very important we keep that in mind. So we began to examine, analyze the natural plants growing around us, which were, these are knowledge that has been there in the community, but people knew they have this knowledge in the community, and then they went to school. They went to school and they become more ignorant than before. For me, that is the tragedy of education. People were wiser, they have knowledge of what they have in their locality. They know the names of the plants, they could identify them, and then they went to school, Western education, and then they lost the knowledge. They have the knowledge of things that are just there, but they want to write their exam, pass the exam, and then come back home. And then no knowledge. So for us, education is knowledge of the soil. So when we began to do that, they immediately connected with what we were doing. So yes, Pax Herbals is bringing them back home to the knowledge. And we began to prepare medications for malaria, flu, cough, and then it was very helpful. And then we made them into products that is acceptable and they can keep at home. Then when we now grow bigger, when we need to make mass production, we encourage the local families to cultivate the plants that we buy from them. So almost every family in the village where we are is a supplier of one material or the other to Pax Herbals. So they are well connected because they benefit a lot. We have our own farm, but we decided to buy the raw materials from them. So we simply train them on farming methods. Then we buy from them. And they in turn come back to buy the medications from us, and they are happy to buy because each time they buy the medication for cough, they say, yes, this is from my home. Part of this came from us. So there's a very good synergy. They never saw us as exploiters who have come to exploit their natural resources. Meanwhile, in the nearby states, in Delta states, where you have oil and gas, the foreign multinational corporations, they have so much resentment towards them in the local community, but they saw them as people who have come from outside to tap into their natural resources and take them away. So the people don't see them as part of the community, as welcome. And the contrast is very striking. So that's what we do in Pax Herbals. We train the local population to cultivate, and then they supply us the plants, the raw materials. Then we make them into products. Some of them become marketers of the same products in different cities in Nigeria. So you saw a continuous cycle of the community expanding.
Thank you. I very much like that integration of the community in every step, also the supplying of raw materials. That's ingenious, actually.
Yes.
Cool. Also, I want to give Stephanie the chance to ask questions in that hockey.
Yes, and I would like to bring discussion like on a more global level as well. You were just talking about the community, and also in relation to bringing people or leaders back home. And now with this crisis, it seems a bit as if the conventional medicine is not that trustworthy to many people anymore. And I was wondering if you feel a shift to for many people or leaders to come back home to more, let's say, traditional medicine, or often also called alternative medicine. Is there like a shift of knowledge base in the medical world back to the herbs that we actually grow, or what is your opinion of that?
Yes, my opinion is that it's not a shift. It's not really a shift of knowledge base. It's an expansion to the horizons of, of our reality. I think the problem before is what Shimananda, the Nigerian, I think it's your favorite author, said that there's always a danger of a single story, that we should always avoid a single story. The story of medicine is never a single story. In fact, it started with nature, with plants, and then with astrology, with chemistry. And then over the course of years, the story became one story, just conventional medicine. And we thought we had mastered the mystery of the human body. And if you do that, you may be caught unaware, as we are now, because we are telling only one story. So I think it's an evolution and expansion of consciousness that we need. I will tell you, in reality, we don't really know much about the human body. We know a lot, but we haven't really learned much. The immune system of the human body is so marvelous, it's so complex. The atoms, the protons, that we still need to learn so much. So I think on the global level, we need to have a system of education that tells the full story, not just a single story. And I think that is a challenge that the world needs to confront post COVID-19, that we need to review our knowledge basis and remind ourselves to tell multiple stories, because it is against nature, as far as I understand, to have mono-agriculture, mono-culturalism, mono-language. It has to be multi-agriculture. We have the freedom, like in nature, to become what we want to, but I should not impose on you what I believe in or my own way of life. So I think it's very important that we should go this way. So for us, medicine is opening up. The music is medicine, water, poetry. We should all remember all these are part of the healing system. So for me, then, true healing is a transformation of worldview. That's simply for me what healing is. The body is just one aspect of my reality. I'm not just a body. I'm a spirit, I'm a soul, I'm a relationship. I am many things at the same time. I'm a farmer, I write poems, I teach, I do so many things at the same time. I think we need to. So I can't tell myself I'm a doctor and that is all I am. No, I am far more than that.
Thank you for that. I'll give it back to Leandra.
Thank you. I really like the sentiment there that we are more than one thing, more than just a body, but also as a culture and as a global community, we can be more and don't all have to melt into one thing that is the same all around the world. I like that. It gives more freedom, I think. I have another question that is more about the concept of home. And I wanted to ask you personally, when you feel most at home, especially with your story of the monastery and feeling at home there, what is it that makes you feel most at home?
Yes, what makes me feel most at home is when I'm able to focus my mind on what is important to me and to my environment, to my community. So for me, where I'm able to focus on what I think is good at the same time, because in the modern age, there's so much that requires my attention. We have technology, we have computer, laptops, we have so many things, meetings, and this drains so much out of the every normal human being. But when I'm able to let go, and I feel that yes, I need to attend to one activity, but what if I'm not able to? What's going to happen? Then I discover that if I don't, I can always have it next time. And then I feel that the world in reality does not revolve around me, that I'm not the center of the world. I'm just an aspect of it. And my vocation is not to save the world. Because if I do that, I will be overwhelmed and I will wear myself out. The fact that, yes, I'm not the center and I'm not the one to solve all the problem, but I can identify my own contribution and do it to the best of what I can do. And if I find myself in a place where I recognize that reality and I'm able to live it, for me, I'll be very much at home, wherever it is. Home for me is that, wherever it is, whether in Geneva, in France, in New York, in Nigeria, in Ghana, for me, that is home.
That's beautiful and sounds very peaceful.
Yes.
Maybe one last question before we move over to the home tour, if you like. This is the one question that I ask every interview partner in my series on the Northern Wisdom. and it connects the concepts of home and learning, but also co-creating with somebody. And I wanted to ask you, what is something that your mother taught you?
Yes. Well, of course, now in these days, I say a lot about this. I grew up with my grandparents, uh, along with my own direct parents, and I learned a lot from my grandparents, my grandmother especially, because she used to tell me different stories. So my dad, my mom, they reflect more of the exogenous, educated, modern way of living, while my grandparents, they drew me into the cultural, natural life world. And I find myself in both worlds when I was growing up. And my grandmother uh, always tell me that nobody is evil. And that is strange because young people generally, these days, I think in Africa, in the modern world, every parent tells the child, people are evil. So you got to be careful. Don't trust anybody. And here was this old woman telling me, no one is evil. Always learn to see the goodness in other people. That when you see it, whatever evil that is there will be transformed by the goodness in you. Of course, I didn't understand what she was saying, but as I grew up and reflect, so I saw the wisdom in what she was saying. So she used to tell me a lot about that. She also used to tell me that any child who does not learn to move with the elders, we may grow up making a lot of mistakes. The importance of learning from others, which I now interpret as co-creation, that co-creation, recognizing that there's still so much to learn, so much that we can key into the world. And finally, she told me about the importance of listening, the importance of listening. And she always said that the wisest one is the one who learns to listen, not the one who talks all the time or talks too much. So say always listen, because she thinks the listening is an art that is very vital. And for me today, I've seen the importance of that virtue. I even call it a virtue now, because we have so much talking that we no longer know what it is to be silent. We are a very restless generation. Uh, if somebody calls you and asks you, "Are you free?" and you say, "Oh, good, I'm free," they say, "Are you okay? Are you all right? How can you be free?" So for us, it has become a status quo to be busy. So the more busy you are, yeah, the more you feel good that you are doing something. But if you are just free and you are relaxed, yeah, oh, I'm free tomorrow, I'm free next tomorrow, people wonder if you are okay. Well, I think that is because we have lost the meaning of work and progress. And thinking back from what my mother used to tell me, I see that as the virtue that the world needs to learn. We need to learn to be peaceful. We are too restless. When I'm not holding my phone, or I'm not sending text messages on WhatsApp, there's so much of them, Facebook. We just need to keep doing something. And that mentality went into medical practice. Like a doctor thinks you need to do something for his patient. Sometimes the patient needs just to be there and get it. But a doctor thinks he must do something to me as his patient. So that I learned from my mother, that we should learn to be and understand life more deeply.
Thank you. I think we can learn a lot in that aspect, and just being still and respecting each other more, I think would be great. I think Stephanie has another question for you.
Yes, well, thank you for the advice that you shared, that you've received from your mother. I think that's also very valuable to us. And I was wondering if you have even more advice for us young potential agents of transformation like Leandra and me, that you could give us on our own, or starting our own personal transformative journey. Well, how did you do that? What is like the best way for us to do that?
Yes, for me, what I would think is the importance of identifying your passion and identify your passion. And when you identify it and know it, then you flow with it. It could get you into trouble. It could put you into some lonely situations when you feel that you are all alone. But then, as somebody says, remember the sun is alone too, and yet it shines on everyone. And the moon is alone too. So I think for you, you should see yourself as the moon, it's always shining, even during the day. We always forget that the moon also shines during the day. It's just that we don't see it. So the fact that I don't understand you does not mean that you have a problem. Probably I have a problem because I can see deeply enough. So for me, for young people, I will advise them to identify their passion. And the fact that people don't understand you does not mean that you have a problem. It could be them who need to expand their horizon. Because I've seen many young people who pursue a line of career because their parents, their family want them to go there. Say, you go and be a barrister. You need to be an attorney so that we can be proud of you. And that is not a path to peace and happiness. So that's what I tell young people during my teaching, that it's important to identify your passion and then go with it. But don't expect it to be easy and so sweet at the beginning. But at the end, when you look back, you'll be happy that you kept to your passion.
Great, thank you so much. I will really take that into my little booklet of advice now from these many pioneers and interviews like you. Leandra?
Thank you. Now, if you want to, we would very much like you to give us a little home tour, or just a tour of your surroundings, or maybe one thing that is especially important to you or close to your heart, whatever you want.
What I could suggest, I live in a very vast compound here, about 40 hectares of land. So I could do on another occasion, maybe later today, a video on WhatsApp, 5 minutes, just to capture the key aspects of this environment. It's huge. We have different things. We have a fish pond, a bakery, a poultry, a snail farm. We have all kinds of things. We have an animal house. We have flowers, garden, botanical garden. There's so much. Here is my home, surrounded by trees, flowers, and beautiful structures.